For 5 years, she kept her white wolf hidden until she was forced to transform. Mist curled through the courtyards, curling around the towers and clinging to the ground like a living thing. Inside, Lady Alara moved silently through the halls, her pale hands brushing along the tapestries as if tracing memories she alone could see. For 5 long years she had lived like this, careful, measured, hidden. Nobody suspected the truth that lay beneath her fragile form. Nobody knew that the quiet, noble lady they all saw was only half of her. The other half, wild, dangerous, and powerful, slept, locked away like a beast waiting to awaken. Alara's secret was a white wolf that lived inside her, a rare being, born once in a generation, feared and misunderstood. For 5 years she had kept it hidden, feeding it in secret, feeding her own hunger for freedom in whispered, stolen moments. She had learned the art of restraint, of control. She had learned to smile, to laugh, to pretend she was like the rest of the court, even when every instinct screamed to run, to howl, to tear at the world that confined her. But tonight, the air was heavy with unease. Rumors of war had reached the castle. The neighboring warlord, ruthless and cunning, was moving his armies toward the borders. The king held council in the great hall, candles flickering in the shadows, while lords and ladies whispered secrets that carried like poison in the stone corridors. Alara had no place in such politics, no desire to be involved, and yet the pull of fate always found her. She walked along the balcony, gazing into the forest beyond. The trees swayed as if breathing, shadows curling and stretching. The wind carried a scent she knew too well, the faint tang of blood, the echo of the wild, the promise of danger. Her ears twitched, her body stiffened. She wanted to run, to escape into the woods and let the wolf take her, but the rules of the court bound her. Control was everything. Survival depended on secrecy. A soft sound made her turn. A shadow moved among the columns of the balcony, graceful and silent. It was him, Lord Kalen. He was tall, with dark hair that fell just above his shoulders and eyes that seemed too deep, too knowing, as if they could see through walls, through masks, through the very soul. He had appeared in the castle weeks ago, a warrior sent by the king to train the soldiers, but Alara suspected there was more. There always was more. "You are restless tonight," he said, his voice low, steady, carrying a weight that made her chest tighten. "I am merely observing," she replied, careful. Her voice was soft, controlled, but the wolf inside her growled at the closeness of his gaze. It was a gaze that seemed to pierce her carefully built walls. Kalen stepped closer, until the shadows of the balcony wrapped them both. "You are hiding something," he said, not as a question but as a statement. "I can feel it. I do not frighten easily, Lady Alara, but you are different." Alara's heart raced. She had feared this moment for 5 years. Most would have turned away, mocked her, or fled. But Kalen, he only watched. His calm, steady presence made the beast inside her restless, hungry. She tightened her hands into fists, fighting the urge to reveal herself. Not yet. Not here. The court called for a feast that night. Torches lit the great hall with a golden glow, but the shadows lingered, long and restless. Lords and ladies laughed and whispered, unaware of the danger that prowled the edges of the kingdom. Alara moved among them, a fragile jewel in flowing white silk, a mask of serenity hiding teeth and claws. Kalen sat across from her at the high table. Every glance he gave her felt deliberate, searching, probing. She imagined that he could sense the wolf even before she allowed it to stir, that he could hear the low pulse of its heartbeat echoing against her own. She felt both dread and desire. She had never wanted anything like this before. The feast continued, laughter echoing against the stone, the clink of goblets like the beat of some strange ritual. But then, a shadow passed along the outer windows, a movement too quick to be human. Alara's pulse quickened, and the wolf stirred beneath her skin. The hunger for action, for freedom, surged. Before she could control it, the doors to the hall burst open. Armed figures, cloaked and masked, spilled into the room. The court erupted into chaos. Nobles screamed, guards drew swords, and the hall became a storm of steel and fear. Alara's instincts took over. She didn't have to think. Her body moved with the speed and precision that only the wolf could teach. A dagger came toward her, fast, silent, deadly. Her hand caught it midair, twisting it from the attacker's grip. Another lunged, and her reflexes were faster than thought. But she could feel the wolf pushing, straining, eager to emerge. Her control wavered. Kaelin was there beside her, sword drawn, cutting through the attackers with a precision that mirrored her own. Their eyes met, and in that instant the air seemed to thrum with unspoken understanding. He did not flinch, did not fear. He simply stood there, steady, waiting, watching. The wolf's power surged, too strong to resist. Alara felt her body change, muscles stretching, senses sharpening, eyes glowing white in the flickering torchlight. She bit back a howl as claws tore through the marble floor, as her silk dress shredded under the force of transformation. The court around her screamed in terror, but she didn't care. Survival demanded the wolf. Survival demanded release. When the chaos ended, the masked attackers lay unconscious or fled. Guards were stunned, unsure of what they had witnessed. And in the center of it all stood Lady Alara, or the White Wolf. Her fur gleamed like freshly fallen snow, eyes radiant with otherworldly light. Her breath came in ragged puffs, steam curling in the cold air of the hall. Kaelin approached her cautiously, but there was no fear in his movements. Only awe, only something deeper, something that made her heart leap and ache all at once. You are the White Wolf," he said, his voice quiet but firm. Alara shook her head, stepping back, trying to regain her human form. "No, nobody must know. This cannot happen, not here." He reached out, just a hand, not to touch her but to hold her gaze. "I know," he said, "but hiding like this, it will not keep you safe. The kingdom needs you, and perhaps you need someone who understands." Her chest tightened. His words were both a balm and a blade. Trust was dangerous. Desire was dangerous. Everything inside her, the wolf, the noblewoman, the fear, the longing, was a storm she had tried to tame for 5 years. And now it was breaking free. Alara fled the hall before anyone could notice her transformation fully. She ran through the corridors, every step a mixture of shame, fear, and exhilaration. The wolf in her roared, hungry and free, but also cautious. It had waited 5 years for this moment, yet now it trembled at the vulnerability of being seen. She found herself on the balcony again, cold wind whipping around her. The moon reflected off her fur, silver and pure, like a warning or a promise. Kaelin's silhouette appeared behind her. "You cannot hide forever," he said. "I have survived this long by hiding," she whispered. "You do not understand." "I understand more than you think," he said, his eyes soft but intense. "But hiding will not protect you when the storm comes, and I will not let you face it alone." For the first time in 5 years, Alara felt the stirrings of trust. And also the stirrings of something far more dangerous, something she had not allowed herself to feel in years, something like longing. The wind carried the scent of the forest, of freedom and danger beyond the walls. And Alara knew, deep in her bones, that the moment of hiding was over. The wolf could not be caged any longer. Not by fear, not by rules, not by anyone, least of all her own heart. But as Kaelin reached out as if to promise protection, a shadow moved across the trees below. A new threat had arrived, silent, deadly, and unseen. And Alara's heart leapt with both fear and exhilaration. The game had begun. The hidden wolf would have to fight, and soon she would have to decide whether to embrace the power within or let it consume her completely. The night was far from over. The moon hung low over the castle, silver light spilling across the mist-covered courtyard. Lady Alara stood at the edge of the balcony, her white fur still faint in the memory of her mind. The wolf had receded for now, but the echo of its power lingered like a heartbeat beneath her skin. She had survived 5 years in hiding, but tonight had changed everything. The secrecy she had clung to like a shield had been torn away, if only for a moment. She did not see Kalen approach. He moved silently, shadowed in the moonlight like a figure carved from the night itself. She did not need to turn. She could feel him there, his presence steady and unwavering. "You cannot continue like this," he said softly. "One day hiding will fail you entirely. Tonight was proof." Alara's hands trembled slightly. "I do not wish to be known," she whispered almost to herself. "The wolf, it is not safe for anyone to see me. I survived because I controlled it. I cannot let it rule me." Kalen stepped closer, his dark eyes reflecting the moonlight. "Control is not weakness," he said, "but neither is hiding. There is a difference between restraint and fear. You feel it. I can feel it." The tension between them was undeniable. Not fear alone, but something deeper, more primal. Alara's heart thumped in her chest, and the wolf stirred beneath her ribs, sensing the unspoken words, the forbidden pull. She had been alone for so long. She had feared trust, feared closeness, feared anyone who might see the truth of her being. And yet, Kalen's presence stirred something she could not name. Before she could answer, the alarm bell rang. A loud, deep toll that echoed across the stone walls and sent shivers through the castle. The guards ran, shouting warnings. Alara's stomach twisted. She had hoped for a quiet night, but the kingdom was not yet done testing her. "They are at the east gate," one guard shouted, eyes wide with fear. "A force like none we've seen before. They move fast. They are unnatural." Alara's pulse quickened. Her wolf's instincts flared, sharp and immediate. She could feel the tension in the air, smell the metallic scent of armor and blood carried from afar, and hear the faint whispers of the wind that carried warning. "They are coming," Kalen said, already moving toward the armory. "And we need you, Alara. Your power, the wolf, it is the only thing that can stop them." Alara shook her head. I will not." "You have no choice," he said, his voice firm but not unkind. "If you do not, people will die, and will not watch it happen." Her chest heaved. 5 years of hiding, 5 years of careful restraint were about to end. The wolf rose within her, its growl low, fierce, demanding release. It wanted to fight, to run, to strike fear into the hearts of the enemy before they reached the castle walls. But Alara hesitated. If she lost control, if she fully transformed, there would be no turning back. Kalen reached out, gently touching her shoulder. His hand was warm, grounding, and for a moment her fear wavered. "I will be with you," he said. "You are not alone. You never were." The words broke something inside her. The wolf surged, sensing permission, sensing acceptance. Alara gasped, feeling the change begin, her muscles tightening, stretching, skin tingling with the first signs of transformation. "No," she whispered, trying to hold back, but it was too strong, too necessary. By the time the first attackers reached the castle walls, Alara had shifted. Her white fur gleamed in the moonlight, eyes glowing with an otherworldly silver. She moved like liquid shadow and snow, fast, precise, powerful. Her claws scraped the stone as she leapt from the balcony, landing silently among the invaders. They froze, weapons raised, but fear overtook them before they could strike. They had expected humans, soldiers, guards, but not this creature, not this white wolf that moved with the grace of wind and the power of a storm. Kalen followed closely, his sword cutting a clear path, his dark armor glinting in the torchlight. Together they moved like a single force, wolf and night, instinct and strategy, human and something more. Alara's heart pounded, not just with the thrill of the fight but with the awareness of Kalen beside her. His presence was both anchor and spark. She could feel the trust he offered, the bond forming in the heat of battle. For the first time in years she did not feel alone. The enemy pressed forward, relentless. Alara leapt, claws raking armor, teeth snapping with precision that killed without thought, without hesitation. Soldiers fell back, terror in their eyes, whispers spreading. "The white wolf has returned." She could hear Kalen's voice, clear and commanding, cutting through the chaos. "Focus. Don't let them break the line." Ilara obeyed instinctively, coordinating with him, understanding the rhythm of his movements, trusting his guidance. The wolf within her roared, reveling in the freedom, the power, the release, but still tethered to her human mind by the bond forming with Kalen. The battle raged for hours. The enemy was cunning, using shadow and speed, but they were no match for Alara's dual nature and Kalen's skill. Slowly, they pushed the invaders back, forcing them into retreat. The courtyard, once pristine and silent, was now scarred with the marks of the fight, cracked stone, scorched earth, and the scent of fear lingering in the air. When the last of the attackers fled, Alara collapsed onto the cold stone, panting, fur matted with mud and dust. Kalen knelt beside her, his hand brushing against her cheek, careful, respectful. "You did it," he said softly. "You saved the castle and the people." Alara's eyes met his. She saw no fear there, only awe and something deeper. Something she had not allowed herself to feel for years. Admiration, trust, and a quiet warmth that made the wolf inside her purr in contentment. I could have lost control," she admitted, voice trembling. I could have hurt them or myself." Kalen shook his head. "You controlled exactly what needed to be controlled. You are stronger than you know, Alara, and you are not alone, not anymore." The words settled in her chest, heavy with meaning. 5 years of solitude, of fear, of hiding had been shattered. She had been forced to transform, to reveal her true self, and in doing so had found something she never expected. Connection, trust, perhaps even the beginnings of love. But even in the quiet aftermath, the night carried a warning. From the far edges of the forest she sensed movement. Not soldiers this time, something else, something older, something that knew her power, that had been waiting for the right moment. The wolf within her growled low, a primal warning, and Alara felt a chill crawl down her spine. Kalen noticed her tension, placing a hand lightly on her arm. "What is it?" Alara shook her head, her silver eyes narrowing as she gazed into the misty trees. "Something is coming," she said softly. "Something that knows the wolf, and it will not be kind." Kalen's jaw tightened, and he drew his sword again, placing himself between her and the unseen threat. "Then we face it together," he said. Alara felt a flicker of hope mixed with dread. She had hidden for so long. She had survived alone. But now, she would have to fight alongside another, trust another, and embrace a part of herself she had always feared. The wind shifted, carrying a new scent, faint but unmistakable. Danger, magic, and the promise of a trial unlike any she had faced before. The wolf within her stirred, ready, eager, but she held it back for a moment, savoring the strange, fragile warmth of trust Kalen offered. "Are you ready?" he asked quietly, eyes locked on hers, steady, unwavering. Alara nodded, a small smile tugging at her lips despite the fear and uncertainty. "I am," she whispered. "I have no choice." And with that, the white wolf's eyes glowed brighter in the moonlight. The castle walls echoed with the quiet tension of what was to come. Alara had been forced to transform, and in doing so, had opened a door she could never close. The night was far from over, and the danger lurking beyond the trees promised challenges that would test not only her power but her heart. As the first whispers of the approaching threat reached the courtyard, Alara felt the wolf surge within her, fierce, alive, and unstoppable. She looked at Kalen, and in that moment she knew that no matter what came next, they would face it together, or die trying. And from the shadowed forest beyond, eyes glimmered with anticipation. The forest outside the castle was alive with whispers. Trees bent in the wind as if bowing to some unseen force, and the mist crawled over the ground, thick and heavy, hiding shadows that moved with silent purpose. Lady Alara stood at the edge of the courtyard, her white fur gleaming faintly even in her human form, senses straining. The wolf within her stirred restlessly, aware of the presence lurking just beyond the trees. Kalen stood beside her, sword in hand, eyes scanning the forest. "They are close," he said quietly. "Something more than soldiers, more than mercenaries." Something older, something dangerous. Alara's heart pounded. She had felt the wolf awaken once before in the chaos of the castle attack, but now it was different. It was not just survival or instinct. It was a warning, a call to face something she could not fully understand. She could feel the forest shifting around her, as if it were alive and watching, waiting for the moment to strike. "I can feel it too," she admitted softly. "Something is waiting for me, for the wolf." Kalen's gaze softened. "Then we face it together," he said, and for a moment his hand brushed hers, a small, grounding contact that sent a shiver through her. The wolf stirred again, sensing the bond between them, sensing that she was no longer truly alone. They moved into the forest, careful, silent. Each step was deliberate, every sound amplified. The shadows clung to the trees, twisting and shifting, and the moonlight barely penetrated the canopy above. Alara could feel the tension in the air, heavy with magic, thick with the memory of long-forgotten power. Suddenly the mist parted slightly and a figure emerged. Cloaked, tall, and moving with unnerving grace, it stepped into the moonlight. Its face was hidden, but its presence radiated authority, menace, and something intimate, as if it knew the wolf she kept hidden. "You are far from your hiding place, White Wolf," the figure said, voice smooth and ancient. "And yet I have waited for you." Alara's fur bristled, her instincts roaring. "Who are you?" she demanded, trying to keep her human voice steady. The figure laughed softly, a sound like wind through dead leaves. "I am a guardian of what you have sought to escape," it said. "I know your secret and I know your pain. The wolf within you is not a curse. It is a legacy, but it must be tested." Kalen stepped protectively in front of her. "Do not touch her," he said sharply. "She is under my protection." The figure tilted its head, studying Kalen with interest. "And you, mortal, are unusual. Most are afraid, but you do not fear her. You do not flee. Perhaps you are worthy." Alara's heart tightened. Worthy? For what? She could feel the wolf straining beneath her skin, ready to answer the challenge before she even understood it herself. She had lived in secrecy, feared her own power, but now the world demanded she embrace it fully. The figure raised a hand, and suddenly the ground trembled. Roots and branches rose from the earth, twisting into shapes that threatened to ensnare them. Shadows coalesced into forms, creatures of bark and mist, moving with unnatural precision. Alara's eyes narrowed. The wolf surged, filling her body with strength and speed. She leapt forward, claws and teeth ready, yet Kalen was there, guiding her, coordinating her movements, a rhythm forming between them that felt older than time. The creatures struck, and the battle began. The wolf moved with a ferocity that surprised even Alara, each attack precise, each leap calculated. Kalen cut through the smaller forms with ease, his sword a silver arc in the moonlight, yet the larger, more intelligent shadows pressed forward relentlessly. Amid the fight, Alara realized something crucial. This was not just a test of strength, it was a test of trust. The wolf alone could fight, but it could not understand strategy. Kalen alone could fight, but he could not match the supernatural force surrounding them. Only together could they survive. She inhaled deeply, feeling the bond between human and wolf, between herself and Kalen, solidifying. The fear that had kept her hidden for 5 years melted slightly, replaced by determination. She trusted him, and in that trust the wolf found control, focus, and purpose. They pushed the creatures back, step by step, until the last of them fell into the mist, dissolving into nothingness. The forest was silent again, but the tension did not leave. Alara could feel the figure's eyes on her, observing, judging, waiting. "You have strength," it said finally. "But strength alone will not protect you. You must learn to lead, to embrace both sides of your nature. Only then will the kingdom survive, and only then will you find your path to redemption." Alara's chest heaved, the wolf's growl subsiding into a low purr of satisfaction. She had faced the threat, but she knew this was only the beginning. There were more challenges ahead, forces older and darker than anything she had yet encountered. Kalen placed a hand on her shoulder. "You were incredible," he said quietly. "The wolf, it is a part of you, and it is magnificent. But remember, you are not alone in this fight." Alara looked at him, and for the first time she allowed herself to feel something fragile, human, and dangerous. Hope. And perhaps something like love. But even in that moment the forest shifted again, a movement at the edges of her senses that made the wolf stir uneasily. She turned, silver eyes scanning the darkness, and felt a chill she could not shake. "They are coming," she whispered. "Something is watching, waiting for the next moment. The real threat has not yet arrived." Kalen nodded, tightening his grip on his sword. "Then we prepare," he said. "Whatever comes, we face it together." Alara's wolf growled low in agreement. For 5 years she had hidden, restrained, and feared. But now she understood something she had not before. Strength alone was not enough. Survival required trust, courage, and the willingness to face not only the external threat but the truths within herself. The night deepened, thick with mist and shadows, and Alara felt the weight of her legacy pressing down. She was not just a noblewoman hiding a secret. She was the White Wolf, a creature of myth and power, destined to confront forces older than the kingdom itself. And yet, as she stood with Kalen by her side, she also felt something unexpected, a sense of redemption stirring within her. For the first time, she did not fight alone. For the first time, she felt the possibility that she could be more than a hidden weapon, more than a secret terror. She could be a protector, a leader, and perhaps even a partner capable of love. But the shadow in the forest deepened, coiling like a serpent ready to strike. Alara sensed it moving closer, watching, learning, waiting for the perfect moment to test her. The wolf tensed, muscles ready, instincts sharp. The next battle would be unlike any before, and she knew she would have to embrace both sides of herself fully, or risk losing everything. Kalen's hand found hers again, firm and reassuring. "You do not need to face this alone," he said, eyes meeting hers with a seriousness that made her heart race. Alara nodded, wolf and human in harmony, strength and vulnerability intertwined. "Together," she whispered. "We face it together." The mist shifted, carrying the sound of footsteps, light, deliberate, and endless. From the shadows, a figure emerged, not entirely human, not entirely beast. Its eyes glowed with an unnatural light, and its presence carried the weight of ancient power. Alara's wolf growled, low and warning, and Kalen tightened his grip on his sword. "This is it," she said, heart pounding. "The test, the real test begins now." The creature stepped closer, and the forest seemed to hold its breath. The air shimmered with magic and danger, a prelude to a confrontation that would decide not only their fate but the fate of the kingdom itself. Alara felt the surge of the wolf within her, fierce, alive, and ready. She looked at Kalen, and in that gaze she found trust, courage, and the promise of something she had never allowed herself to feel fully. "Whatever comes," she said softly, "we face it together." The figure moved forward, and the mist curled around it like a living thing. Alara's heart raced. The night was far from over, and the White Wolf, for the first time in her life, was ready to embrace her destiny. From the shadows of the forest, more eyes glimmered, watching, waiting, and hungry for the test that was about to unfold. The challenge had begun. The forest trembled under a wind that carried more than cold. It carried the weight of ancient power. Lady Alara stood at the edge of the clearing, white fur faintly glimmering beneath her cloak, eyes bright with silver light. The wolf within her stirred, tense and alert. Across the clearing, the ancient figure, tall, cloaked, and impossibly still, watched her with eyes that glowed like pale fire. Around it, shadows twisted and moved as if alive, creatures born of magic and malice. Kalen stood beside her, sword ready, dark eyes steady and unflinching. "Whatever happens," he said quietly, "we face it together." Alara's heart tightened at the words. She had fought alone for 5 years, hidden from the world, fearing what she was and fearing what others might do if they knew. But now she understood something she had not before. Strength alone was meaningless without trust. She could face the ancient forces outside this clearing because she was not alone. Kalen's presence grounded her, anchored the wolf within her, and reminded her that she could embrace both her human heart and her wild power. The figure spoke, voice echoing through the clearing, carrying a weight that seemed to press on the trees themselves. "White Wolf," it said, "you have survived in hiding, restrained your power, and lived among mortals. But restraint is weakness. Power untested is meaningless. You must choose, conceal or embrace, lead or perish." Alara's eyes narrowed. "I will not hide any longer," she said, voice steady. "I will embrace who I am." The wolf within her roared, surging to the surface, merging with her human mind. She felt the strength, the speed, the clarity of senses she had only dreamed of using. She was no longer a creature afraid of her own power. She was the white wolf, fierce and commanding. The shadow creatures advanced, moving like living smoke, but Alara did not hesitate. She leapt forward, faster than the eye could follow, claws tearing through the mist-born forms. Her teeth flashed in the moonlight as she struck with precision. Kalen followed, cutting through the smaller creatures with ease, but more importantly, guiding her movements, coordinating their attacks like a single force. The ancient figure watched, silent, as if assessing her every action. The creatures it had summoned fell one by one, but still it did not act, waiting for the moment to test her fully. Alara felt the wolf's instinct urging her to attack recklessly, to unleash the full force of her power without thought. But Kalen's presence reminded her to balance instinct with strategy. She drew a deep breath, wolf and human in harmony, and struck again with measured force. The shadow creatures faltered under the combined strength of her skill and his guidance. Then, with a flick of its cloak, the figure stepped forward. Its true form emerged, taller than any human, with eyes that burned like molten silver, and a presence that radiated the authority of ancient magic. "You have power," it said, voice low and commanding. "But will you wield it wisely, or will you be consumed by it?" Alara's wolf growled, sensing the challenge. Her fur bristled as she stepped forward, teeth bared, yet her eyes met Kalen's. He nodded, and she felt a calm settle over the wolf inside her. She could control it, guide it, and use it to protect those who could not protect themselves. "I choose to protect," she said firmly. "I will not be afraid of who I am, and I will not let fear control me." The figure's eyes narrowed as if surprised by the answer. "Very well," it said. "Then show me your true strength. Show me the harmony of wolf and human. Show me that you are worthy." Alara leapt, faster than thought, striking the figure with claws and teeth, while Kalen flanked her, sword raised. Magic and instinct clashed as the figure retaliated, but Alara moved with clarity, weaving human intelligence with wolf instinct. She dodged, struck, and countered with a precision that even the figure did not anticipate. The creatures summoned to attack them fell away, retreating into the shadows, recognizing the force of her power. The ancient figure raised its hands, and the clearing shimmered with energy, but the wolf within Alara surged, meeting it head-on. Her howl cut through the night, a sound of defiance, courage, and the acceptance of her full nature. Kalen moved beside her, guiding, supporting, never overshadowing, but lending strength through strategy and courage. Together they became more than human, more than wolf. They became a force of unity, of trust, and of unbreakable bond. The figure faltered, finally stepping back. "You are remarkable," it said, voice low and almost reverent. "You have embraced both sides of yourself, the hidden power and the human heart. Few can do this. Few ever succeed." Alara lowered herself, her chest heaving, wolf and human slowing, but still alert. The clearing was quiet now, the shadows retreating, leaving only the mist and the silver glow of the moon. Kalen stepped close, brushing a hand against her shoulder, steady and grounding. "You were incredible," he said softly. "The wolf, you are magnificent. And yet your heart, your human heart, is what makes you unstoppable." Alara's chest tightened, emotions mingling, relief, pride, and something deeper, something she had feared to name. She looked at him and in his eyes saw the reflection of her own courage, her trust, and the unspoken bond they had formed in battle and hardship. "Kalen," she began, voice trembling slightly. He gently placed a finger against her lips. "No words," he said softly. "Not yet. Let this moment speak for itself." The wolf inside her purred, calm now, in harmony with her human mind. For the first time she felt complete, not just powerful, but whole. She had faced the threat, embraced her true nature, and survived with both heart and instinct intact. The figure watched them for a moment longer, then nodded slowly. "You are worthy," it said, voice echoing like a fading wind. "The white wolf is no longer a secret to fear, but a legend to inspire. Guard this truth well, for the world will test you again. But now you know the strength of balance, of trust, and of courage." With that, the figure dissolved into the mist, leaving the clearing silent except for the gentle rustle of leaves and the distant hoot of an owl. Alara lowered herself fully to her human form, breathing deeply. The wolf within her had not gone, but it rested, tempered by understanding, by control, and by trust in another. Kalen reached for her hand, holding it gently. "You are not alone," he said, his eyes soft, filled with admiration and something more tender. "You never were, and you never will be as long as you allow me to stand by your side." Alara's eyes shimmered with silver light, a reflection of the wolf in her own heart. I will not hide again," she whispered. "I will embrace who I am fully, and I will fight for those who cannot fight for themselves. With you I can face anything." Kalen smiled, a small, quiet smile that carried trust, reassurance, and a promise. "Then we face the future together, White Wolf. Whatever it holds, we face it together." The wind shifted, carrying the faint scent of the forest and distant mountains. Peace had returned for now, but Alara knew it was fragile, temporary. The world was full of hidden dangers, magic older than any kingdom, and threats that would test her strength and courage again. Yet, for the first time in her life, she did not fear. She had embraced her nature, accepted her power, and allowed herself to trust another. She had faced the darkness, survived it, and found redemption in the process, not just for herself, but for the people she had sworn to protect. She looked up at the moon, silver light spilling over the clearing, and felt the wolf stir in quiet approval. She had been forced to transform, to confront her fears, and in doing so she had discovered the full measure of her power and the depth of her heart. Kalen stood close, silent, watching the horizon, and Alara reached for his hand, fingers intertwining with his. They did not need words. The bond between them, forged in battle and trust, said everything. "Together," she whispered again, a vow as much to herself as to him. He nodded, squeezing her hand gently. "Always." The night stretched around them, calm for now, but alive with promise. Somewhere in the distance, the forest rustled, a reminder that the world was vast, mysterious, and full of challenges. But Alara was no longer the frightened noblewoman hiding her true nature. She was the white wolf, fierce, courageous, and free, and she had a companion she could trust with her life, her heart, and her secret. The first light of dawn began to filter through the trees, painting the clearing in gold and silver. It was a new day, a beginning and a promise of what could be when courage, love, and trust aligned. Alara breathed deeply, wolf and human together, heart and instinct unified. She had survived, she had grown, and she had chosen her path. And though the world would test her again, she was ready. The white wolf had awakened, and she would never hide again.